oh, those aren't real drugs. And I'm like, then why did you bring them? We have demonstrations of what drugs look like. Drugs could look like anything for all I know. This is, oh, hi everyone. When I was young, I went to school, as many of you know, until the court order. But up until then, I went to school with ordinary people in public schools in Wisconsin, so it was interestingly progressive and yet utterly conservative. In 6th grade, we had a big drug thing where they're like, drugs are bad, you shouldn't do drugs. Drugs do all kinds of bad things to you, and you shouldn't do them. This was pre-Nancy Reagan, so I don't know where they came up with it. But they brought this big, huge plexiglass-covered thing of all the different kinds of drugs in. And as a child, I was like, well, why wouldn't we just peel the plexiglass up and take the drugs? And so then I went and asked my teacher, quietly, because I didn't want the other students to catch on, that I had broken the magic code. Like, why? What if we were to steal the drugs? And he's like, oh, those aren't real drugs. And then I was both heartened that my fellow students would not be doing drugs that were bad for them, but also terribly disappointed that I had not, in fact, found a loophole. It really ruined me for the rest of my life, because now when I see drugs, I'm like, those could be fake drugs, and there's only one way to know for sure whether they're fake or not. It's a bit of a bummer of a day for me, so you'll excuse me if I'm a tad low energy. We'll get to that later. But mostly I'm going to answer the question that I assume all of you out there are having, which is, who is that fabulously good-looking guy where Keith normally is? And let me tell you, it's still me. Although I look so much more fabulous than normal, I can tell you that's merely because my girlfriend made me go get them to shine a laser at my head. For no reason whatsoever. Benny, she's like, I'm tired of the unibrow. And I'm like, what unibrow? And she's like, you have a unibrow. And I'm like, really? I never noticed. She's like, well, you don't have to look at you all day long every day. And I'm like, no, I prefer not to. I'm really terribly unattractive, as you know. She's like, you need to get that unibrow taken care of. And I was like, we've talked about this. You don't like it when I shave my eyebrows off. She's like, not the whole eyebrows, just the part in the middle. And I'm like, okay. And then I would go shave the little part in the middle, which is hard, okay? If you're an inventor out there, I think there is an actual market for unibrow razors, which would be just like Schick razors, but very thin, because as a guy, let me tell you, right, I'm holding the razor at a very obtuse angle, trying to shave like a 2 millimeter wide thing, because I don't want to take a lot of eyebrow off, because I've done that before, and I just look worse. Okay, so I'm trying to shave just the tiniest little tiniest little part down the middle at this extreme angle, and I end up cutting my nose, right? Because they're razor blades and they're very sharp. So just make a very thin razor. I'm going to go patent this idea. I'm sure that there's not. I'm told that every possible invention in the razor space has been patented. 2 blades, 3 blades, 4 blades, 5 blades. They're probably up to like 18 blades by now in terms of patenting. Like the first blade lifts the hair, and then the second blade lifts it a little more, and then the third blade lifts it a little more, and then the fourth blade cuts it off. But then the fifth blade scares the hair, and that enables it to not notice the sixth. I'm not going to go into it. You can go read the patent. Anyway, tiny razors, I'm going to patent them. So by the time you see this, I'll be rich, fabulously, hugely wealthy. Anyway, so for a couple years, every once in a while, Loretta would go, you have to shave that thing, mostly before taping this. And then I would go try not to cut a hole in the end of my nose, because people would notice that. And then she's like, you should get them to laser that hair away so it never comes back. And I'm like, don't you remember my rules about lasers, which is I ain't letting people near my eyes with lasers, which mostly applies to LASIK. Because even though I have terrible vision, I wear contacts on TV, because if you wear glasses on TV, the lights reflect in them, and Loretta hates that. Because before the show, if I have glasses on, she's like, okay, you have to tilt your head back a little bit, we're getting reflection. And then I tilt my head back, and then she's like, and now tilt your head forward a little bit because we're looking at nose hairs, right? And then eventually there's like a 2 degrees that my head can be at which you don't see light reflections and don't see nose hairs. God, I hope they can't laser nose hairs because that would be very painful, but Loretta would probably make me do it. Anyway, so a couple days ago, I bought one of them Groupon laser things. One of them, hi, give us a small amount of money, and we'll arrange to give you a service which costs a large amount of money, except it doesn't really cost a large amount of money. There's just a huge profit margin in it. So we're selling it on Groupon for nothing, really, and we'll get you in here, and then we'll still make some money, and you'll have less hair. And I drive over there, and there's a nice lady who's like, how would you describe your hair? Like, it's hair. It's a follicle, which causes... She's like, no, is it brown or chestnut? And I'm like, I'm a guy. We don't know there's a difference between brown and chestnut, actually. There's red hair, there's brown hair, there's black hair, and there's bald. And if I was bald, I wouldn't be here. So there's really 3 choices for hair color here. And she's like, you forgot blonde. And I'm like, you're right, I did. She's like, that's okay, we can't laser blonde hair. And I'm like, well, then why did you ask me? And before I get too much comments in the forum, I haven't yet had a chance to go get my hair cut, which is why I have sideburns. See, I have the guy trim my sideburns. That's how I know how long it's been. I guess, let me get this out of the way. People of California, about once every year, the weather is going to change from what it used to be. And the weather will have used to have been nice. Kind of like up in the morning, I guess I can just wear jeans and a t-shirt all day long nice. But there will come a day when you will leave your house in the morning, jeans and a t-shirt, and then as you're getting ready to leave work, you're like, why is the ground wet? Did the irrigation system misbehave again? And the answer is no. No. The rest of the country knows this all the time, but even here in California, we have what's called the wet season, which generally starts around October and generally ends around, I'm going to say March. And during that time, it is possible, although not common, for water to actually fall from the sky. And I know people are going to say, how does water get into the sky? God puts it there. So periodically, God is going to put water in the sky, and then the water will fall from the sky. Your parents may have told you it was angels crying. They lied. God just needs someplace to put the water every once in a while, and so he puts it in the sky, and it falls to the ground. Now, Californians, when this happens, it is critically important to remember several things. First of all, roads are going to be really ungodly slippery because there will have been no water falling from the sky for the previous 6 months. So all the crap that did fall onto the ground is now there, but like a 60th of an inch higher because there's a sheet of water on top of it. So slow down on the roads, for God's sakes. And secondly, it's not the end of the world, right? The rain is going to stop. Do not huddle in the lobbies of your office buildings going, oh, I can't possibly run to the car. Look at all that water out there. I might get my hair wet. Your hair is okay being wet. Technically, we came from the ocean. We're like 2 evolutionary steps up from fish. Your hair is not your problem. It's your driving. And thirdly, this happens even less often, Californians. Every once in a while, you will be outside, and you will look up and you'll go, oh, the weather looks a little bit nasty. And then the wind will shift, and you'll get this little, and you'll be like, ooh, I thought I just felt a cold front come through. No, that was not a cold front, okay? That was merely the temperature changing like 2 degrees, okay? I'm from Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, every once in a while, you would be outside, generally far away from anywhere, and you would go, oh, it looks like the weather might get a little bad. and then you would feel the wind shift briefly, and you'd be like, oh shit. And you would have about 45 seconds to get under something, because actual dogs and cats were going to start falling from the sky. It would be as if God lifted bathtubs upstairs and just dropped them onto the ground, filled with water. Right? You've got like in Wisconsin, if you feel this wind shift and it looks nasty, you've got a minute before, unless you're good at treading water, you're gonna die. And that never happens in California. Okay, every once in a while you'll be like, oh, a cold front. I guess I'd better walk briskly to my car, otherwise my hair might get slightly extra wet. Just saying. Other bad news. As I said earlier, not the greatest week for many of us. Possibly the least worst piece of news. Sarah Palin announced she's not running for president. I know you're heartbroken. I'm kind of heartbroken myself because, well, it would have been funny. And I don't do a lot of it here on the show, but like at work, I think I could have milked another good 20 or 30 jokes out of Sarah Palin running for president this year if she'd done it. You know, you betcha. You just start throwing betches into conversations every once in a while. Everyone's like, ha, 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 ha. She announced it this week. It got some press. I'm here on my TV show to announce I'm also not running for president. So, bad news, everyone. Not only is Sarah Palin not going to be your president, I'm not going to be your president. Which I think for some of you might be a sense of relief, because you're like, man, I don't know. Again, the problem with me running for president is, as you know, currently the U.S. Constitution only allows the president to serve 2 terms. And I'm only in my 40s. So if I were president now, 8 years from now, I would not be president. And how are you going to follow me? I mean, what are we going to do for the president after Keith? Who would even run, knowing that they would be seen as a pale shadow of the Statenfield years? I am waiting. I've said this before. I'm waiting for the benevolent dictator for life election, because I think I would make a great benevolent dictator. I have few campaign promises. I promise benevolence, and I promise to rule with an iron fist. I think I would be great at it. And I merely need to wait for enough of you to realize it. Other bad news. I live in Sunnyvale. Or I live in Santa Clara. I live right next to Sunnyvale. And yesterday morning, when I was getting out of bed, cracking 9, as God intended, because the sun's up, so you don't have to deal with the horror of, oh, look, it's dark. Oh, it's getting lighter. No, by the time when I get up, it's already light. So I don't need to worry about that part changing. My phone rang, and they're like, blah, blah, emergency broadcast notification, blah, blah, blah. There's some guy shooting people in your neighborhood. Stay inside, for God's sakes. It's not really what it said, but if I were a benevolent dictator, that's what it would have said. It would have said, hi, there's a crazy guy running your neighborhood with a gun. Maybe. We're not sure, but he was there a while ago. You should stay inside. Unless he's already inside with you, in which case you should try to get out. Unless, while you were inside, the crazy guy took the phone and now he's listening to the phone, in which case, never mind. We're looking for you somewhere else. You're safe, perfectly safe to stay where you are. If you're a crazy gun-toting guy, press 1. I mean, it might work. If it does work, it would have saved all that SWAT time. Because pretty much yesterday, they spent the whole day combing my neighborhood, going house to house. Like, I wonder if the crazy guy's in here. No, he's not in here. I wonder if he's in the house next door. And they were running. I mean, it was, dude, I wasn't there. I was at work. Once I got to work, they were like, you should stay in your office. And I'm like, why? And they're like, well, there's a crazy guy. And I'm like, what's he got against me? He's got nothing against me. I mean, there's There are like 10,000 people around here. The odds of him coming across me. Plus, I drive a Honda Accord. Who wants to carjack a Honda Accord? I mean, it's 10 years old. It's got macOS 9 plates. He'd be laughed at. If you're going to carjack a guy with a Porsche or something fast. So I guess and news came out during the day, and here's the point when I knew I would talk about this in my TV show. The guy had an Access TV show. So once that came out, people were like, "Do you know him, Keith?" I'm like, "No, I don't, but I have sat in a room with him." Because he was on Create TV and I'm on Create TV, and if you want to be on Create TV, you got to go to the lottery. And you got to look at the board and go, "I would like Tuesdays at 8:30 when your little number comes up." So I guess I've been in the same room with a mass murderer. So I checked that off my bucket list. And then, during the day, when I saw the link, they were like, he has an Access TV show. And I was like, wow, I bet I could go watch his Access TV show. So I went to the website, clicky, found a show. And then it brought up like, oh, look, his show's on YouTube. And I'm like, oh, I got to go to a meeting. When I get back, maybe I can watch his show. And by the time I got back, they'd yanked the movie from YouTube. So if you're a crazy mass murderer, you're not going to last on YouTube. Lots of stuff does last on YouTube for a long time, but crazy murderers, no. And then I thought, well, what if he talked about being a crazy murderer in any of his shows? I mean, that would have been really great, wouldn't it? Like if he'd been on TV going, one thing I will never do is go out and murder a bunch of people, because that's wrong, right? Because then you'd have him on video doing it. But then I'm like, he's on Access. No one would have ever seen that. Because no one watches. Unless you turn out to be a crazy murdering guy. So here's the great thing. Watch, I'm going to do this. I'm never going to go out and murder a bunch of people. Okay? Never. Not in a million years is that going to happen. I'm not going to run amok. You won't find me dancing through a shopping mall, dangling a machine gun from one hand, with a Hello Kitty purse in the other hand. It's not me. It's not the kind of thing I would do. Okay? No one knows that. No one knows I'm not going to do that unless I do that. And now, if I go and do that, this clip of me denying that I would do that will be all you see, okay? So now I have a life mission. I need to make sure that I never dance through a shopping mall with a machine gun and a Hello Kitty purse. Because that would just be crazily too accurate. It's not like I've been planning it or anything. Don't take me wrong. Secret Service. Or whoever's in charge of watching Access TV shows to look for. Here's the other thing. It just happened yesterday, and I kind of feel bad making light of it because he actually killed people. But sometimes the best thing you can do is laugh at stuff when it makes you unhappy. He also apparently crouched all night long in front of some guy's house. And then at 7 o'clock in the morning tried to make his grand escape. Again, it's not dark at 7 in the morning. It's dark at 3 in the morning. If you're going to make a grand escape, make it at 3 in the morning. There's really no one awake at 3 in the morning. I've worked late and driven home at 3 in the morning. There's no one up. If you aren't paying attention, you could drive your car into a tree, and it'd be 6 in the morning before anyone came looking for you. So again, potential crazy people, make your grand escape at 3 in the morning because the roads are clearer, is I guess all I can say. Look, I did the whole side of the paper. I want to talk about people that own dogs.
Again?
I've talked about people that own dogs before, and it didn't sink in. And I've had more dog owners in my life. So they have again reminded me of things. Thing number one, your dog is not your child. You might think of your dog as a child, okay? But when you get old, your dog is not going to change your diapers. So you don't need to put that level of care into your dog's upbringing. You might feel bad with your child. You're like, I'm going to put everything I can into my little baby Fred here. I'm going to do some really gross and disgusting things to make Fred's life better. Things like changing diapers. Yes, it's gross. I had a friend who was a parent, right? And they're like bouncing their child, and their child throws up on them. And they're like, oh, how cute. I'm like, no, that's another person just threw up on you. If you were 21 and it was your frat brother doing it, you wouldn't go, oh, how cute. Little, Spudzo just tossed his cookies on me. You'd go, oh man, Spudzo, you idiot. Why are you throwing up on me? Except you'd slur more because you'd be drunk. But dogs, right? They're nice. But dogs never gonna put you through college. Dog's not gonna drive you to the emergency room when you've accidentally chopped your arm off with your chainsaw while cleaning brush out of the backyard. So it's okay, dog owners, to admit that your dogs are kind of gross sometimes. For example, say you have a dog that's excitable. Say your dog, when he sees new people, gets very excited. And say your dog leaks when your dog gets excited, as we know tiny dogs are wont to do. You got a dog just peed in your floor. Don't be like, oh, how cute. I'll clean that up. No. You go, bad dog. No peeing on the floor. I don't care how excited you are. It just bugs. Yeah, it's just me. For God's sakes, do not dress your dog for Halloween. For God's sakes, don't do it. Well, maybe don't put a lot of effort into it. Like, for God's sakes, don't fly across the country with your dog dressed for Halloween. That's all I'm saying. Do not spend hours a day posting as your dog on the internet. I wrote down pillow of shame. That's unrelated, but let's just say one of the dogs in my life was recently wearing a pillow of shame. That's funny. It's funny when a dog has a pillow of shame on, and I kind of laugh at the dog because I'm like, oh, you've got a thing on, and you don't have thumbs, so you don't know how to take the thing off. Now, if it were a 3-year-old, you'd be like, that 3-year-old's going to figure it out. Like if you got a dog and the dog has surgery, you put a thing on the dog, and then the dog can't get to things. And if you have a 3-year-old, you don't see 3-year-olds with like cones in their head to keep them from doing things. Because 3-year-olds have thumbs, and they have figured out how to use them. Here's a different topic. Tech Shop had a grand opening a couple weeks ago. I went to it because I'm cool with Tech Shop. I like it, and I'm a Tech Shop makey kind of person, so I went there and I watched them. They had the opening, and they cut through their steel ribbon with a plasma cutter, which I thought is just better than a huge pair of scissors, because after it's done, what are you going to do with a huge pair of scissors? But the plasma cutter, you're like, man, we got a plasma cutter now. So while I'm there, people kept coming up to me and asking me things about Tech Shop, and I couldn't quite figure out why until later when I realized I had my member badge on, so I assumed that they thought I worked there. But I just kept answering things whenever people would ask them. And so in a vague sense, it was like I worked there for free. And I hope I got the answers right. And I probably did. And I kind of hope that the people that I answered didn't later try and find someone else and go, I was talking to this guy earlier, and he was just not good. He thought he knew some answers and told me something, right? I kind of hope that's not true. The same thing happens like to me in Best Buy. Like I can be in a Best Buy, standing around while Loretta's off looking for something. And people will come up to me and ask me things. And I'm like, I'm not even wearing Best Buy blue and khaki. But still, somehow I exude this, hey, you work here aura. And if I knew a password for their stupid computer, I would just solve people's problems all day long. Like, yeah, we could fill that. That'll be in 2 days from now, unless you want to... I guess the last thing I want to talk about, the main reason for my sadness this week is, for me, Steve Jobs. It came out yesterday that Steve Jobs had passed away. As you know, I work at Apple, and I've been at Apple for 24 years now, so I kind of knew him. Like, I never went to meetings with him, and he never directly yelled at me, which I'm told is both good and bad. I was kind of always happy that he didn't know who I was, because that meant if he wanted to fire me, I had to be nearby. So he could point, like, that guy, fire that guy, right? Because if I'm a building away, he'd be like, I want you to fire this guy, and no, I don't see him nearby, but he's about yay high, and he wears t-shirts and Levi's all the time. He's got a unibrow. Right? See, that describes 3/4 of people at Apple. They couldn't afford to fire everyone. So I thought my job was mostly safe. I did interact with him on a couple of occasions. I held the door for him several times. Mostly if I saw him walking by somewhere and there was a door that needed holding, I would hold it for him, because I figured he's the CEO and he's making a lot of money an hour, and turns out I'm not the CEO. May as well be me getting to the meeting 10 seconds later instead of him getting to the meeting 10 seconds later. I was paying for my lunch one day, and I turned and looked, and he was behind me buying a cookie. And at the time I was like, man, it's cool he still pays for cookies, because technically he could have just been, this cookie, it's mine, cookie's mine, and just walked out of the cafeteria, and no one would have asked a thing. No one would have said anything. It'd have been like, yes, that cookie is his. We want more cookies, we'd be glad to bring them to you. And so I am a tad sad still. And as you know, I've mentioned I'm an acquaintance of Woz. So I saw him on TV a bunch yesterday, and I saw on his, I forget where, his Facebook or whatever, he posted something pretty quickly where he's like, man, I just heard terrible news, and now my frickin' phone won't stop ringing. Which I guess is good or bad if you're a guy at that level where people want to know what you think, but you're like, man, I really don't want to talk to you people because now I'm sad. See, no one called me to ask me what I thought, which I guess is one thing or another. And my suspicion is, someday, when I'm dead, no one's going to be calling my friends to get them on Larry King. He's still going to be around. Having that damn show it is. I mean, Regis is retiring, but Larry, I think Larry's coming back. This canceled Piers is back to Larry. So anyway,